It was Thanksgiving morning when I came home to a house that didn't sound like mine. No laughter. No pots clanging. No smell of sweet potato pie baking slow in the oven. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like somebody erased all the warmth from the world and forgot to put it back. I stood there in the doorway, holding my grocery bags, confused. My daughter-in-law's car was gone. My son's truck wasn't in the driveway either. The whole street was lined with cars, families visiting, eating, laughing, but my house? Empty. Except for him. He was sitting in my rocking chair by the window, moving slow back and forth. An old man with silver hair slicked back, his face half hidden in shadow. A cup of untouched coffee sat on the side table beside him, steam long gone cold. And there on the kitchen counter, taped to the refrigerator, was a note. Mama Ruth, we decided to take a family cruise for the holidays. Please take care of Roger for us while we're gone. Roger. My daughter-in-law's stepfather. My heart dropped. Now let me back up for a second. My name's Ruth Johnson, and I'm 58 years old. I'm the kind of woman who believes in peace, prayer, and keeping your own house in order. I've been through enough in this life to know that kindness can be both a blessing and a weapon, depending on whose hands it's in. If you're listening to this, please don't go anywhere. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. That note. My hands started trembling before I even finished reading it. My son, Marcus, hadn't said a word about going anywhere. And my daughter-in-law, Candace, well, she'd barely said a word to me since their wedding last year. Sweet smile on the outside, but that girl could slice you with her tone and never raise her voice once. And now here she was, off on a cruise, leaving her stepfather in my care. I looked back toward the living room. The man in the rocking chair hadn't moved. The only sound was the slow creak of wood against wood. Then, just as I started to speak, his head tilted. One cloudy gray eye opened and looked straight at me. "Shall we begin?" he said. I didn't even know what he meant, but the way he said it, like he'd been waiting for me, made my stomach twist. "Begin what?" I asked, setting my purse down slow. He smiled, and it wasn't a friendly kind of smile. It was the kind that says, "I know something you don't." "The family trip," he whispered. "It's already started." I didn't answer. I just stood there watching him, every nerve in my body telling me to get out of that house. But something about his tone, something about that word family, it pulled me back. "Where's Marcus?" I asked. "And Candace?" They didn't tell me a thing about no cruise. He just stared. Then, with a motion so soft it almost looked rehearsed, he pointed toward the mantel. There was a framed picture there, Marcus, Candace, and their little boy, Isaiah, taken last Christmas. Only now, the glass was cracked clean across Candace's face. I stepped closer. That photo had been whole just last week. "What happened to this?" I asked. Roger let out a low chuckle. "You'll have to ask her when she comes back." But I could tell by his voice, she wasn't coming back anytime soon. Now, I ain't the type to panic over nothing. But I've seen too many things in my life to ignore when something feels wrong. And that day, everything felt wrong. The air, the silence, the way that man kept watching me like I was part of some story he already knew the ending to. Still, I tried to be polite. "Well, Mr. Roger," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You can stay in the guest room. I got a few errands to run. You need anything before I head out?" He leaned back, the chair creaking louder now. "No, I've got everything I need." Then he added, softly, "I've been waiting for this Thanksgiving a long time." The way he said it chilled me more than the November air sneaking through the cracks in the window. When I came back from the store an hour later, the old man was gone. The rocking chair still moving. Slow. Empty. And that night, just as I was about to turn off the kitchen light, I noticed something new taped to the refrigerator. Another note, written in the same handwriting. "Don't worry. They'll call you when they're ready." Ready for what? I didn't sleep that night. Every time the wind rattled the windows, I thought I heard footsteps upstairs. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that cracked picture on the mantel. And by the next morning, my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice said, "Mrs. Johnson, this is Officer Mayers with the Atlanta Police Department. We're calling regarding your son and his wife." I froze. "What about them?" I asked. There was a pause. "Then, they never boarded any cruise ship, Their car was found near Lake Oconee." I gripped the phone tight, my knees about to give out. "Found? What do you mean found?" The officer hesitated. I think you better come down here." And just like that, the rocking chair upstairs began to creak again. Slow. Steady. Like someone waiting. And when I looked toward the staircase, Roger was standing there, smiling. "Morning, Mama Ruth," he said softly. "You ready to talk about what really happened?" I didn't even have the strength to speak. Because deep down, I already knew, this Thanksgiving wasn't about family. It was about payback. I couldn't move. Roger stood at the bottom of my staircase like he belonged there, one hand resting on the rail, his face calm and patient. That same quiet grin, like he'd been rehearsing this moment long before I ever walked in the door. "Talk about what really happened," I repeated, my voice shaking. "What do you mean by that?" He took a slow step toward me. "About Marcus. About Candace. About the truth you've been hiding under this pretty little roof." Now, I didn't know this man. I'd only seen him twice before, once at the wedding, once at Isaiah's first birthday party. Both times, he sat in the corner, saying nothing. Just watching. Even then, something about him made my skin itch. Like his silence wasn't peace, it was calculation. I put the phone down and backed toward the kitchen. "You stay right there, Mr. Roger. Police just called me about my son. I ain't got time for no riddles." He smiled wider. "You really think the police can help you, Miss Ruth? They don't even know what they looking for." That's when I noticed his clothes. Same dark slacks as yesterday, same crisp white shirt, but clean, too clean. Like he'd pressed them overnight. And his hands, not a wrinkle out of place. I don't know why, but that detail chilled me most of all. A man too clean in the middle of chaos always got something to hide. I tried to sound steady. "Look, you can sit yourself down, or you can take your things and go. Either way, I need to handle my family business." He didn't move. Just turned his head toward the window where the rocking chair sat, creaking again though no wind touched it. "Family business," he murmured. "You really wanna use them words today?" Something in his tone froze me. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment, like a preacher catching his congregation lying straight through prayer. Then the smell hit me. A faint trace of smoke. I turned toward the kitchen counter. The note from yesterday, the first one, was gone. In its place was a small black mark, like somebody had burned the corner of the counter and tried to wipe it away. "Did you burn something in my kitchen?" I demanded. Roger tilted his head. Sometimes the old has to burn so the truth can breathe. That's when I realized I was dealing with somebody not right in the head, or somebody so far ahead of me, I couldn't see the game yet. I grabbed my coat. "I'm leaving. When I get back, I expect you gone." As I reached for the door, he said something that stopped me cold. "You raised a good boy, Miss Ruth. But you should have taught him what forgiveness really costs." I spun around. "What did you just say?" He didn't answer. Just sat down in that rocking chair again, closing his eyes like he'd earned his rest. I left anyway. I had to. My heart was racing too fast to think. The drive to the police station felt like it took hours even though it was only 20 minutes. My mind kept flashing through old memories. Marcus at 16, standing up to his father, Marcus at 21, promising he'd never keep secrets from me. And Candace, smiling that too perfect smile at the wedding. Something in that smile never reached her eyes. When I finally walked into that station, Officer Mayers met me in the lobby. Big man, heavy voice, eyes too tired for his age. "Mrs. Johnson?" he asked gently. I nodded. "You said my son's car was found. What happened?" He led me to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. On the table sat a folder, thin but heavy with meaning. He opened it, laid out 2 photographs, my son's car by the lake, doors open, no sign of them. 1 shoe. A phone. A torn corner of a child's drawing. I swallowed hard. Is there blood? He shook his head. No blood. No signs of struggle. But the driver's seat was pushed back like someone taller was driving. That's why we wanted to confirm. Does your son let anyone else use his car? I shook my head. Nobody but his wife. Why? The officer sighed. Because we found fingerprints that don't match either of them. Whose fingerprints? He flipped the folder closed. We're still running them. But this part's strange. The prints came from an older man, possibly in his 70s. My whole body went cold. 70s? Yes, maybe late 60s. Roger. It had to be him. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. Officer, there's a man at my house. My daughter-in-law's stepfather. His name's Roger. He's been acting strange. Said he wanted to begin. I think he knows something about this. Mayers nodded and grabbed his radio. I'll send a patrol over to your address right now. But when we pulled up to my house 30 minutes later, it was spotless. Rocking chair gone. The counter clean. No sign anyone had ever been there. Maybe he left, the officer said. No, I whispered. He's still here somewhere. We searched the house top to bottom. Nothing. Then I noticed something on the mantel where the family photo had been. The cracked frame was gone, replaced with a new one, same picture, but now Candace's face was burned clean out. The officer frowned. You sure this wasn't already like that? I told you, it was cracked, not burned. He radioed again, ordering a wider patrol. We'll keep an eye on the area, Mrs. Johnson. You stay with someone tonight. But when he left, I didn't go anywhere. This was my house. My family's house. I wasn't letting some stranger scare me out of it. As the evening sun dipped low over Atlanta, the house felt too still again. I cooked a small pot of greens just to fill the silence, hoping the smell of something warm might calm me. That's when I heard it, the slow tap of a cane on the floorboards above me. Tap. 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 I froze. My eyes went up toward the ceiling. Tap. 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 Roger. I called out. No answer. I climbed the stairs, every step feeling like it weighed 50 pounds. The hallway was dark except for a strip of orange light from Isaiah's room, the little boy's nightlight still glowing. I pushed the door open. Empty. But on the bed lay another note. Truth has a funny way of coming home, don't it, Mama Ruth? I backed away, my heart hammering. The air smelled faintly of cologne and something else. Wood smoke, maybe. Same as before. Downstairs, the phone rang again. I hurried to pick it up. It was Marcus's voice. Weak, trembling. Ma, he whispered. Marcus. Where are you, baby? Static swallowed his answer, but I caught one phrase clear as day. Don't trust him. Then the line went dead. I sank to the floor, tears burning my eyes. My boy was alive, but running from who? From what? I sat there till the clock struck midnight, rocking myself slow in that empty living room, the sound of my own breath filling the silence. And that's when I saw it, through the front window, across the street. A figure standing in the shadows, holding something shiny that caught the moonlight. Looked like a silver lighter. Roger. Watching. He raised that lighter toward his face, flicked it once, and smiled across the dark like we shared a secret. Then he mouthed two words I couldn't forget even if I tried. 4 days. I didn't know what that meant then. But by the end of those 4 days, my daughter-in-law would be on her knees, begging. And every secret we'd ever buried as a family would come clawing its way back to the surface. That night felt endless. Every creak in the house sounded like a voice I couldn't quite hear. The words 4 days kept circling through my mind like a broken clock that refused to stop ticking. 4 days till what? By sunrise, I was still sitting in that living room, clutching my coffee cup with hands that wouldn't stay still. The rocking chair by the window looked harmless again, just an old piece of wood and memory, but I couldn't shake the thought of Roger standing out there, watching. I told myself I was going to church that morning. Maybe get my spirit calm. But when I reached for my keys, they were gone. Every last key in that little bowl by the door, gone. And that's when I knew I wasn't dealing with a guest anymore. I was dealing with a man who wanted control. I took a deep breath, tried to steady my heart, and did what any mother would do. I called Marcus again. Straight to voicemail. Then I tried Candace. Nothing. Her phone rang twice and cut off. It was around noon when the first message came through. An email. No sender. No subject. Just one line in the body. Day 1. Remember the fire. My hands went numb. That fire. He couldn't mean that. That happened 30 years ago, long before Marcus was even grown. I stared at the screen, my heart thudding so hard I could hear it. That fire had nearly taken my life, and it had taken someone else's. Someone I never spoke of again. Roger couldn't know about that. Unless. I pulled up old photos, searching for something, anything, that might connect him to back then. But I found nothing. He wasn't in my world till Candace brought him around. And Candace had always been funny about family details, talking about her mama's side but never mentioning her stepfather's life before she was 15. I tried calling Officer Mayers again, but the station said he was out on another call. So I did the next best thing. I drove. My spare car keys were in the laundry room, an old set for the Bic. I slipped out the back door, looking over my shoulder every step of the way, feeling that prickly heat crawl up the back of my neck like eyes were on me. Atlanta looked alive that morning, folks heading to the parade downtown, kids running with balloons, laughter everywhere. I almost felt crazy, like I'd made it all up. But the fear sat too deep in my gut for that. I drove to Marcus's house on the south side. His gate was open, yard still neat, toys scattered near the porch. No one home. Inside, everything was untouched, except for one thing. On the kitchen counter sat another note, same handwriting as before. Day 1 complete. 3 left. And beneath it, a photograph. It was my old house, the one that burned 30 years ago. The picture was black and white, edges curled from heat. Someone had circled the upstairs window in red ink. I whispered to myself, Lord, what is this man trying to say? That fire was supposed to be an accident. I'd fallen asleep cooking after a long shift at Grady Hospital. At least, that's what everyone believed. But I knew better. Someone had lit that fire on purpose. And the boy who died that night, he'd been my neighbor's son. His name was Peter. Peter Collins. I sat down hard at Marcus's table, heart pounding. Collins. Roger Collins. It hit me like a hammer to the chest. I felt the air leave my lungs. Candace's stepfather, Roger Collins. The same last name I'd tried to forget for 30 years. That's when my phone rang again. Same blocked number. This time, I answered on the first ring. Ruth, the voice said, low and deliberate, you remember my brother? My knees went weak. Peter, I whispered. That's right, he said. You told the police it was an accident. You told everyone that fire started in the kitchen. But we both know different, don't we? I couldn't speak. My throat was locked tight. I waited 30 years, he said, to make sure you felt what I felt. To make sure your family learned what it's like to lose everything for a lie. Then he laughed, a soft, broken sound. 4 days, Ruth. 4 days to tell the truth, or everyone you love goes through what my mama did. The line went dead. I fell against the wall, shaking. I'd buried that part of my life so deep, I thought the dirt had hardened over it. But Roger had dug it up with bare hands. I wanted to run to the police again, but how do you tell them you're being haunted by a sin you never confessed? By the time I got back home, the sun was setting. And something had changed in the house. The smell, smoke again, faint but stronger now, like wood had been burned just an hour before. I walked through every room. Nothing. Then I reached the attic. The door was cracked open. A trail of ashes led up the steps. I climbed slow, one creak at a time. Up there, in the middle of the attic floor, sat the rocking chair. My rocking chair. And in it, a photo album I hadn't seen in years. My family's pictures, Marcus, his father, me. Every page had been sliced down the middle, right where my face appeared. And on the last page was a note. Day 2 begins at midnight. Don't hide from it this time. That night, I locked every door, every window, sat with my back to the wall, shotgun across my lap. But still, the rocking started again upstairs, slow, steady, patient. I whispered a prayer I hadn't said in decades. Lord, if this man's come to take me, protect my child. Protect my grandbaby. Somewhere outside, a car engine started. Then silence. And in that silence, a voice floated down from the attic, low and hoarse, the kind that sticks to your soul. You should have told the truth back then, Ruth. You should have told them it wasn't no accident. My eyes filled with tears I couldn't hold back. Because now I remembered something I'd tried to forget all these years. That night 30 years ago, I wasn't the only one in that burning house. Marcus had been there too. He was only 7. And maybe, just maybe, that fire hadn't been started by me at all. Maybe my boy had lit it first. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that little house burning all over again, orange light licking at the curtains, the sound of my own voice calling out names that never answered back. By the second day of Roger's 4, the walls of my home felt tighter. The air heavier. I'd been praying, but even my prayers sounded afraid to speak. That morning, I found my front door wide open. Not unlocked, open. Wind sliding through the hallway, whispering cold across my bare feet. And there, taped to the doorframe, another note. Day 2. Confession begins. I stepped outside, half expecting to see him. Nothing but the quiet hum of Atlanta traffic in the distance. But when I turned back toward the house, I noticed the smell, smoke again, faint, sweet, wrong. I followed it to the living room. The fireplace was lit. Roger sat on the rug, cross-legged like a child, stirring the ashes with the edge of that silver lighter he always carried. Morning, Mama Ruth, he said without looking up. You remember now, don't you? I swallowed. I remember enough to know you need to leave my house. He smiled, still staring into the flame. You can't run from a fire, It follows you. I wanted to yell, but something in his calm held me. I just stood there while he reached into the pocket of his shirt and pulled out an old photograph, edges brown with age. It was me, standing in front of my old home. The same one that burned. Where did you get that? I whispered. From my mama's Bible, he said softly. She kept it tucked in the book of Job. Said the woman in that picture was the reason her baby never came home. The room tilted. My breath caught in my chest. Roger, I said, voice trembling. I didn't mean for any of that to happen. He finally looked at me, eyes glassy with a pain that time hadn't washed away. Didn't mean for it. You lied, Ruth. You told the world my brother's death was an accident. But you knew your boy played with matches. You knew. I shook my head, tears spilling. Marcus was a child. He didn't understand. He understood enough to hide, Roger snapped. Then his tone softened again, strange and sad. You covered for him. And you let my mama die believing her son caused his own death. I wanted to argue, but the truth pressed too heavy on my chest. That night came rushing back, clearer than it had in 30 years. Marcus and Peter had been playing upstairs, building a campfire with candles and newspaper. I was downstairs folding laundry when the smoke alarm screamed. By the time I reached them, the hallway was a wall of heat and noise. I grabbed Marcus. I tried to reach Peter. But the beam fell. And when the police asked later, I told them I'd fallen asleep cooking. That it was my fault. Because a mother will take any blame before she lets the world label her son a killer. I sank to my knees, trembling. I thought if I carried that guilt, my boy could still have a life. I never meant for it to take yours away. Roger closed the lighter and slid it across the floor toward me. Then fix it, he said. Tell the truth before the 4 days are done. Or I'll tell it for you. He stood, brushed the ashes off his pants, and walked out the front door like he knew he owned the air I breathed. I sat there for a long time, staring at that lighter. My reflection trembled in the silver surface, older now, heavier with the weight of secrets. By evening, I knew I had to warn Marcus. If Roger was planning to ruin us, my boy needed to know. But when I dialed his number, a woman answered. Not Candace. A nurse. This is Grady Hospital, she said. Are you family of Marcus Johnson? My heart stopped. Yes, his mother. Your son's been admitted. Car accident outside of Macon. He's stable but sedated. I grabbed my coat, drove like my hands were made of lightning. The highway blurred. My heart beat louder than the tires. At the hospital, I found him asleep, head bandaged, arm in a cast. The sight of my baby boy lying there broke something in me. When I turned, Candace was standing in the doorway, face pale, eyes swollen. Where were you? I asked. They said you all went on a cruise. Her voice shook. We never went anywhere. Roger told us he'd booked it all, said it was a family surprise. Then he disappeared with our phones and the car keys. We thought he was waiting for us at the dock, but he never showed. Marcus went to look for him, then the crash happened. I felt the ground slide beneath me. He's been at my house, Candace. Leaving notes, watching me, talking about that fire. Candace covered her mouth, tears falling. I think he's losing his mind. He said this Thanksgiving would finally even the score. I didn't know what he meant. Before I could answer, Marcus stirred. His voice was faint, raspy. Mama, he knows. I know, baby, I whispered, leaning close. But you rest now. Let me handle it. He grabbed my wrist weakly. He said you lied. He said we burned a boy. Mama, what did I do? I pressed my hand against his cheek. You were a child. None of it was your fault. Candace looked between us, confusion and fear twisting her face. What's he talking about? I wanted to tell her everything. But how do you say out loud that the man you married into the family of the child your son accidentally killed? I just whispered, we'll talk when he wakes. That night, after they both fell asleep, I stepped outside the hospital to breathe. The air was cool, city lights humming soft against the dark sky. Across the parking lot, near the far gate, I saw a shape leaning on a cane. Watching me. Roger. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just pointed one slow finger toward me, then to the hospital windows above. Then he mouthed, Day 3. A shiver ran straight through my bones. He wasn't finished. He wanted confession, and he wanted it loud enough for the world to hear. And somewhere deep down, a part of me knew, he wasn't the only one keeping secrets anymore. Because Candace had that same haunted look in her eyes, the look of somebody hiding something too. The next morning came with a sky that looked bruised. Dark clouds rolling low over Atlanta, like the heavens themselves had something heavy to say. I sat in that hospital room, watching Marcus breathe, steady, but fragile, while Candace scrolled her phone with trembling hands. She hadn't slept. Neither had I. Roger's words echoed in my mind like a hymn turned curse. Day 3. That meant time was running out. I turned to Candace. You didn't tell me Roger was your cousin. She froze. Her thumb stopped mid-scroll. Who told you that? I asked the nurse to pull Marcus's intake file. His emergency contact, Roger Harris. Same last name as your mama's maiden name. Candace looked away, eyes glistening. I wasn't hiding it to be cruel. Then why keep it a secret? I said quietly. You married my son. You been sitting at my dinner table for 7 years. You let that man into our house like family, 'cause he was family. Candace put her face in her hands. I didn't want to believe he'd do this, Miss Ruth. Roger wasn't always like that. He used to be sweet, protective. After the fire, something in him broke. He blamed everybody, the world, God, you. She looked up, tears trembling on her lashes. And me. I blinked. You. Candace nodded slowly. Peter was my cousin too. We were kids together, same age. He was the one who showed me how to tie my shoes. I used to call him Peanut. When he died, Roger lost his little brother, but I lost my best friend. My heart dropped. Lord have mercy. Candace's voice cracked. When I met Marcus years later, I didn't even know his full name at first. It was at a job fair. He was kind, gentle. Reminded me of the boy Peter could have grown up to be. But when I found out who his mama was, I froze. I almost walked away. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Then I thought maybe God was giving me a way to heal both families. To bring peace instead of hate. I let out a heavy breath. And Roger found out. She nodded. Last Thanksgiving. He came over for dinner when you invited him. He saw the picture on your mantel, Marcus holding that old fireman's badge Peter's daddy gave him. He just snapped. Said I betrayed our blood by marrying into yours. Said I was sleeping with the devil's son. I pressed my hands together, whispering, Lord, this man's vengeance runs deep. Candace shuddered. He said there'd be a reckoning before the year ended. And I think he meant it. Just then, Marcus stirred in his bed, groaning softly. I went to him, smoothing his blanket. You okay, baby? His voice came out weak. Dreamed the house was burning again. I froze. What house? Our old one, he whispered. But this time, I wasn't inside. I was outside watching. Somebody else was screaming. I looked at Candace, and her eyes were wide. Roger, she mouthed. Marcus opened his eyes and whispered, Mama, I think he's here. Before I could answer, a soft beep echoed. The heart monitor flickered, then went black. The lights overhead dimmed. Power surge. Candace gasped. Oh God. I turned toward the door. And there he was. Roger. Standing right in the hospital doorway, calm as a preacher before a funeral. He had that silver lighter again, flicking it open and shut. The tiny flame flared and vanished, again and again. Miss Ruth, he said, his voice smooth, almost kind. I figured we'd all meet here eventually. Seems fitting, don't it? Candace stepped forward. Roger, please. Don't do this. He looked at her like she was made of glass. You lied too. Told me you'd never speak to her again. And yet here you are, nursing her son like some holy saint. Candace started shaking. He's my husband. I love him. Roger tilted his head. Love don't clean blood off nobody's hands. Then he looked straight at me. You had your chance to confess. I told you, 4 days. This is day 3. You still holding that lie like it's a blessing. I stood tall, even though my knees were trembling. I told you the truth, Roger. I tried to save both boys. I didn't want either of them to die. He gave a cold smile. Then why you let my mama die thinking hers was the only sinner in that story? The hallway behind him filled with nurses and orderlies, whispering, unsure what to do. The man looked calm, but the air around him felt ready to snap. I spoke softly. Roger, look at me. You've lived your whole life trying to burn down a house that already turned to ashes. You think pain fixes pain? He blinked, and for a brief moment, I saw something human in his eyes. Loneliness, grief, a boy who never got hugged again after that fire. But then he shook his head. Ashes don't lie, Miss Ruth. The truth was written in them long before you ever started prying. Security came up behind him, and he finally dropped the lighter. Tell him the truth, Mama Ruth, he said. Tell him before I do. The officers led him away without a fight. He didn't struggle, didn't yell, just kept humming some old gospel tune under his breath, the kind you sing when your heart's already halfway to heaven. Candace fell to the floor sobbing. I stood there frozen, the weight of every lie pressing down like wet cement. After a long silence, Marcus whispered, Mama, what truth? I turned toward him. Baby, when you were little, you and Peter played with fire. But you didn't mean to hurt nobody. It was my lie that turned it into sin. I thought protecting you was love. But all it did was bury the truth alive. Marcus's eyes filled. So Roger's brother died cause of me? I held his hand tight. No, baby. He died because I didn't speak the truth soon enough. You were a child. The guilt was never yours to carry. Candace looked up from the floor, red-eyed. And me? What about my part in all this? I sighed. You married my son, and you loved him. That's what matters now. But we can't run from the past no more. Roger ain't wrong about that. That evening, after Marcus was cleared for observation and Candace went to get coffee, I stepped outside the hospital. Rain had started, soft but steady, washing the dust off everything. Roger's words looped in my mind. 4 days. If this was day 3, then the last one would come tomorrow, Thanksgiving Day. I drove home through the rain, headlights slicing through the dark. The closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. When I pulled into my driveway, something glinted on the porch, another note, weighted under a smooth river stone. I hesitated before picking it up. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Final day. Confession ends where the fire began. And beneath it, a small photograph. The old house again, but this time, the picture had been burned around the edges. On the back, a single line written in black ink. If you don't come, I'll bring the fire to you. The wind picked up, slapping my hair across my face. I looked toward the horizon, where the rain had turned the streetlights into smears of gold. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving. And the boy who lost everything wanted his own kind of feast. I whispered to myself, Lord, give me strength. 'Cause tomorrow, one of us is finally going to burn the truth clean. Thanksgiving morning rose quiet, heavy with that kind of stillness you only hear before a storm. No birds. No wind. Just the slow tick of my kitchen clock and the faint hum of the refrigerator. I packed a thermos of coffee, a flashlight, and the letter Roger left. Then I slipped on Marcus's old denim jacket. It still smelled like smoke and cedar. I didn't know if I was going to ask for peace or walk straight into judgment, but I knew I couldn't hide anymore. The drive out to the ruins took me past pine fields and cracked-up roads half-eaten by weeds. Every turn brought back memories, the smell of Peter's laughter, the echo of boys chasing fireflies, my own voice yelling for them to come inside before dark. The old house sat at the end of Hollow Creek Road, nothing left but the stone chimney and a skeleton of beams. Even the mailbox had melted in that fire years ago. I stepped out of the car, rain misting down like whispers. Roger was already there. He sat in that same rocking chair from my porch, the one Candace said her stepfather used to sit in when he came to visit. The man had dragged it all the way out here. His coat was soaked through, his hands folded calm across his lap. "Morning, Miss Ruth," he said softly. "Smells like rain and gasoline, don't it?" My stomach knotted. "You don't need to do this, Roger." He smiled a tired smile. "Oh, I already did. Been doing it every day since that night." He reached into his coat and pulled out that silver lighter. Flick. Snap. Tiny flame dancing against the wind. I stepped closer. I came to tell the truth, not to fight. He tilted his head. "Then say it." My voice trembled. It was me who told the police the fire was an accident. But I knew the boys were playing with your daddy's old kerosene lamp. I knew Peter was the one who knocked it over, and I knew Marcus ran back inside to pull him out. Roger froze, the lighter shaking just a little. I went on. "But I was scared they'd blame you, since your mama was sick back then and folks like to talk. I thought I was protecting both families. Instead, I buried yours in shame and left mine living with ghosts." He stared at me for a long time, rain streaking down his face. "You should have told me years ago," he whispered. "Mama died thinking Peter was playing alone, thinking I left him to burn." "I know," I said, tears mixing with the rain. "And I'll carry that till my own last breath. But that fire took enough of us. Don't let it take you too." He looked down at the lighter, thumb trembling. "Every night I hear him calling my name." I stepped closer, slowly. "You can stop listening to the flames, baby. He ain't in the fire no more." For a long time, the only sound was the rain pattering against wet ash. Then Roger dropped the lighter. It hissed out on the muddy ground. He fell to his knees. I just wanted somebody to hurt like I did. I knelt beside him. We all did. That's the truth nobody says out loud. We sat there till the storm broke open above us, heavy rain, thunder rolling like the sky itself was repenting. When it eased, he looked at me, eyes clearer. "What happens now?" I said. "We rebuild. Not the house, maybe not even trust. But something honest. I'll help you find peace for Peter, and you help me keep Marcus alive in more ways than one." He nodded slowly. "I can try." Candace's car pulled up then, headlights cutting through the mist. She ran out, crying, wrapping her arms around Roger first. "You're still my kin," she said. "No fire can burn that away." Then she turned to me, shaking. "Marcus is awake, Miss Ruth. He wants you." I exhaled hard, heart pounding from everything that had finally broken free. Roger looked at me. "Go on. I'll wait here a bit. Maybe talk to Peter a while." I touched his shoulder. "Don't stay too long, baby. Ghosts love company." He smiled faintly. "Yes. As I drove back toward the city, sun cracked through the clouds for the first time in days. Streets shimmered, steam rising like breath. I thought about all the Thanksgivings before, turkey on the table, laughter hiding secrets, and I realized peace ain't something you wait for. It's something you confess your way into. When I reached the hospital, Marcus looked stronger. He held my hand and whispered, "You told him, didn't you?" "I did." He smiled weakly. "Feels lighter in here." And I knew he didn't mean the room. That night, I sat on the porch again, sipping coffee gone cold. The rocking chair creaked beside me, empty but alive with memory. Somewhere out there, Roger was finding his way home through the ashes. I looked up at the sky, whispered to Peter, and felt the wind change. Sometimes the only way to end a family curse is to tell the truth you swore you'd never speak. Secrets burn longer than fire, but confession is the water that saves what's left of the soul. And if you're still listening, please like, subscribe, and share this story. Tell me in the comments if you've ever carried a secret that nearly burned you alive. Maybe tonight's the night you let it go. It had been 3 days since the rain washed the fire out of our lives. Thanksgiving passed like a dream you half remember, quiet, grey, and full of echoes. Marcus was healing slow, Candace was doing her best to forgive, and Roger hadn't been seen since that morning at Hollow Creek. He left his rocking chair out there beside the ruins, along with a note tucked under the leg. I didn't go back to read it. Some truths need to rest in the dirt. But peace don't last long in my world. It never did. That next Monday, I was sitting at the kitchen table, folding Marcus's discharge papers when the phone rang. The number showed up unknown. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. "Miss Ruth." The voice on the other end was rough, distant. "This is Detective Carter. You still staying over on Auburn Avenue?" "Yes, sir," I said slowly. "Why?" He paused. "We found Roger Harris early this morning. Abandoned motel down by Lake Oconee. He's alive, but barely. Place was set on fire." My chest tightened. "Lord, no. Don't jump to conclusions," he said. "Fire didn't spread far. Looked like someone wanted him scared, not dead." "Someone?" The detective sighed. "We think he was attacked. There were 2 sets of prints, one female." I sat frozen, my hand gripping the phone so tight I could hear my bones creak. Who'd want to hurt that man now? He had nothing left to take. "We're figuring that out," the detective said. "We found something else too. A note on the dresser. Had your name on it." My throat went dry. "What did it say?" He hesitated. "Just one line, she knows." When I hung up, the house suddenly felt colder. I could hear every creak, every hum. Even the old floorboard by the hallway groaned like it was whispering. Candace came in from the porch with a grocery bag. "You okay, Miss Ruth? You look like you seen a ghost." I stared at her. Her makeup was done, perfume strong, too strong for a Monday morning. "Detective called," I said. "Roger's alive." She froze mid-step. "Alive?" "Amham," I said. "But someone tried to burn him up again. Left me a note." Candace swallowed hard. "What'd it say?" "That I know." She forced a small laugh. "Probably his way of getting attention again. You know how trauma makes folks act." I didn't answer. Just kept watching her. Something in her voice didn't fit. The same woman who'd wept in that hospital now sounded almost inconvenienced. Then I noticed her nails, a faint black soot stain under the polish. My stomach turned cold. "You been out by Hollow Creek?" I asked quietly. She blinked fast. "What? No. Why would I?" "That ash don't lie, baby," I said softly. She dropped the grocery bag. "Okay, fine. I went there. Yesterday. I wanted to see if Roger left anything. I wanted closure. Closure don't smell like gasoline. Her lip trembled. You think I'd hurt him? I leaned forward, eyes narrowing. I think you've been hidden something since day one. Tears filled her eyes, but behind them I saw something else, anger, sharp and buried deep. I didn't mean for him to get hurt, she whispered. But he came to the house the night before Thanksgiving, before you even got back from the hospital. He told me he'd tell Marcus everything, that our whole marriage was built on pity and lies. I froze. What lies? Candace took a shaking breath. He wasn't supposed to survive that fire, Miss Ruth. He was supposed to die in it. The room tilted. What did you just say? She looked at me like a child cornered in confession. Peter didn't die from smoke. He died from the beam that fell when Roger tried to pull him out. He was already unconscious, already bleeding. Roger never forgave himself. But my mama, she made me swear I'd keep the truth quiet. Said if it ever came out, it would destroy both families. I felt my knees weaken. So all this time, it wasn't just my secret that cursed us. It was yours. Candace sobbed. I wanted to end it, Miss Ruth. I thought if Roger just disappeared, it would all stop. My voice went low, dangerous. You tried to burn him alive. I panicked, she cried. He was going to tell Marcus everything, that our whole love started out of guilt. I couldn't let him destroy what little good came out of that fire. I stood there, shaking, every word slicing me deeper. You call that good? You call all this good? That man was broken, but he didn't deserve to die twice. She fell to her knees, crying so hard the sound didn't even feel human. I didn't light the fire. I just wanted to scare him. I poured it, but I couldn't strike the match. I swear it. My breath caught. Then who did? Silence. Then she whispered, Marcus. My world stopped. You lie. She shook her head slowly, eyes empty. He found me crying that night. Said he couldn't watch me fall apart again. Said Roger had it coming. I told him no, but he left the house with that lighter Roger dropped. When he came home, his clothes smelled like smoke. My hands started trembling. Candace reached out. I didn't want to tell you. He's your son, Miss Ruth. I didn't want to destroy what's left of you. I stumbled back into the chair, chest tight, tears hot behind my eyes. My boy carried the same curse I tried to bury. I passed it down like an inheritance. Candace sobbed quietly. It's my fault too. We sat there in that kitchen, surrounded by the smell of rain and guilt. Finally, I said, we go to the police. Together. Lies done burned us long enough. She nodded slowly, wiping her face. I'll tell them everything. But before we could move, a faint creak echoed from the hallway. We turned. Marcus stood there, pale, unsteady, holding onto the wall. His eyes looked hollow, haunted. I already did, he said. We froze. He stepped closer. I called Detective Carter this morning. Told him what I did. He's on his way. Candace covered her mouth, sobbing harder. Marcus looked at me, voice shaking. Mama, I thought I was protecting you. Protecting her. But I just became the thing we all feared. I stood, went to him, cupped his face in both hands. No, baby. You became human. And sometimes humans fall. But you stood back up and told the truth. That's what makes you mine. He cried into my shoulder, and for the first time in years, I felt peace stir somewhere deep. Roger lived. Marcus confessed. Candace broke the silence. And me. I finally understood the lesson I'd been too stubborn to learn. That evening, when the police car pulled up outside and Marcus walked out to meet them, I stood on that porch watching the last bit of sunlight fade. Roger once said ashes don't lie. But as the wind carried the scent of rain and smoke away, I whispered to myself, maybe they do talk back, if you're brave enough to listen. When I woke up that morning, the sun was already spilling through the curtains. For the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel heavy, it felt hollow. Like a stage after the actors done gone home. The rocking chair was empty. The note on the table, that same old one that started it all, lay folded neat as if he'd never touched it. I sat at the kitchen table for a long while, staring at that chair. "Shall we begin?" he'd said the first night. Well, it sure did begin, but it ended with a truth none of us were ready for. 2 days after the police took him away, I got a call from Detective Harlan down at the station. "Mrs. May," he said, his voice low, "we found something in the old man's room." My stomach turned. "What is it?" He hesitated. "A box of letters. They're addressed to your daughter-in-law. From her real father." I froze. "Her real father?" He sighed. "Turns out that stepfather ain't who she said he was. He's her biological father. He'd been looking for her for years. That note, it wasn't written by your family. It was written by him." Lord have mercy. Everything started spinning. The man I'd been so afraid of wasn't there to hurt me, he was trying to protect me. See, after that fight the night before Thanksgiving, my daughter-in-law, Tanisha, ran off to meet him. He told her he just wanted one meal together, just one. But when she refused, when she called him crazy and said he'd never be part of her real family, something inside him snapped. That's when he came to the house. He didn't want revenge, he wanted closure. But grief and guilt mixed together can make a person dangerous. When the truth came out, it tore Tanisha apart. She broke down at the station, screaming and crying, begging me to forgive her. She said she never meant to leave me alone, never meant to write that note. She thought she could control him by keeping me near him, keep him calm. But you can't play God with somebody's pain. You can't heal a lifetime of hurt by pretending it never happened. I looked at her, that girl who married my son, and for the first time, I saw the child underneath all that makeup and pride. She wasn't evil. She was broken. The detective told me he'd be transferred to a care facility in Atlanta, and they asked if I wanted to visit before he went. I almost said no. But something deep in my spirit said, go. So I did. He was sitting by a window when I walked in, sunlight resting soft on his shoulders. He turned his head slow, and for a moment, that same half-smile touched his lips. "I figured you'd come," he whispered. I sat beside him. "You scared the life out of me." He nodded, eyes glistening. "Sometimes, fear's the only way folks listen." We sat quiet for a while. The only sound was that old wall clock ticking like a heartbeat. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Family's a funny thing, May. They'll forget you, lie on you, even run from you. But the love you carry, it don't die easy. It just changes shape." I held his hand. "You still love her?" He smiled faint. "Always. I just didn't know how to show it right." Before I left, he reached into his pocket and handed me a folded paper. It was that same note from Thanksgiving, but now it had something written on the back. In shaky letters, it said, "Thank you for showing her what a real mother looks like." I left that place with tears in my eyes and a peace I can't even describe. When I got home, the chair in the living room was still facing the window, like it had been waiting for me. I sat down in it, rocked a little, and whispered, "Shall we begin?" Because I knew healing had just begun, not for him, not for her, but for all of us. Weeks passed. The family came back from their so-called cruise. The minute they stepped through that door, the house filled with tension and shame. But I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just looked at Tanisha, handed her that note, and said, "Read it." She did. And she cried like a baby. Then she hugged me, really hugged me, for the first time since she married my son. No cameras. No fake smiles. Just raw, broken love finally finding its way back home. You know, people always think evil lives in the dark, in shadows and locked rooms. But sometimes, it lives in what we refuse to face. The secrets we bury under smiles, the pain we disguise as pride. And it don't go away till the truth steps in and says, "Shall we begin?" So if you're listening right now, baby, here's what Auntie Megan tell you plain. You can't heal what you hide. You can't fix what you fake. And you sure can't find peace in pretending. Sometimes, love ain't about blood or history, it's about the courage to forgive even when the truth burns. That's what Thanksgiving taught me that year. That family ain't who shows up for the photos, it's who stays after the storm. So hold on tight to the ones who love you right. And if you're listening right now, please like, subscribe, and share this story, and tell me in the comments if you've ever had to forgive someone who didn't deserve it. Because maybe, just maybe, that's where healing starts.